So we have the 2024 developer survey from Stack Overflow, and it starts with degrees. And it seems like like most people, like if you sum up all the people up here at the top, their level of degree, let me zoom in even more, isn't necessary. It's about the same overall as people who have like bachelor's or master's degree. Maybe there's a little bit more over here. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Now, how did people learn to code? Online resources, vast majority, video, blogs, etc., and then books and online like a certification at like a local college or whatever. Documentation is a way to look up like how code works or whatever, APIs, SDKs, all that kind of stuff. Now, here's right up front. More than 1 in 3 developers that took the survey this year have been coding as long or as longer than Stack Overflow existed. 38% of respondents have been coding for 15 years or more. 1 in 3 developers have been coding professionally for 4 years or less. Can anybody see an issue right off the bat here? Something's not quite right with these numbers, right? Something is not quite right with these numbers. I'm going to run it again. How many years have you been coding? 38% said 15 years or more, or at least 1 in 3, definitely more than 4 years, because Stack Overflow has been around for quite a while. However, 1 in 3 developers have been coding professionally for 4 years or less. There's an issue here. Now, the question is, why is there a discrepancy? You could make the case, like if I was just trying to fit some data into this, maybe it's the case that a large majority of developers who took this survey have been developing for a long time, but they're no longer professionally developed. But that also doesn't quite make sense unless they didn't engage with the how many years have you been coding professionally question. That's kind of the only way that I can make these numbers line up. They answered the one question, but not the other question. They answered the question of how many years have you been coding versus how many years have you been coding professionally. And then there's a disconnect. But something's off about this, right? And I'm not entirely sure what the answer is here, but this stood out to me as one of like the biggest things that I just couldn't make sense of. Then we have the number of years professionally coding by developer type. Who is the top most role or title, business title, that has been developing the most number of years? That's what this chart is showing. Give me your title and how many years have you been developing, and we'll take the people who have been developing the most number of years, and then we'll break it down by title. And senior executive, manager. Now, look, you can argue with me about this, and you might even have a leg to stand on if you're going to argue with me about this. But I think we move programmers to senior people managing positions way too much. I understand why. Who better to manage other programmers than a programmer who understands how to program? But there is a false dichotomy there. But programmers who actually care about programming tend to care about things and logic and imperative processes. Managers tend to care about people and societal impacts, because societal impacts, I don't mean about like society in general. I'm talking like, within the office, making sure people work together and, you don't have like a jerk ruining everything and things like this, right? People are meeting their goals. It's more people-based. It is a fundamentally, like, diametrically opposed system of operating when you move a programmer who has been programming for a long time and cares about the things and the imperative processes and all of that, and you try to turn them into a people person. These two things don't add up. Sometimes it works. but most of the time it doesn't. And as an additional argument, most programmers, yeah, I'm going to break it to you right now, they're not that hard to manage. They're actually not that hard to manage. It's actually quite easy to manage them. You just have to put some thought into the correct goals to give them, allow them to have enough time and incentives to do the right things, and you might be surprised at how speedy and efficient a lot of programmers are with very little oversight. Now, is that true in all cases? No, of course not. But I am making a prescriptive claim. Of course, you can explain it currently and go, well, descriptively, I'm describing that you can't do that in this day and age. Sure, yeah. But why can't you do that right now? Because we have completely ruined our entire industry, even to the point where we do not know how to manage programmers anymore. And so we slough them off to the managerial train, and we lose all the impetus that they had to write quality code, given their many years of experience. That's a descriptive claim. And I'm saying that if we looked at some of the prescriptive things we could do in the industry, that no longer has to be the descriptive way that things are. That it does not have to be this way. So full stack, unsurprisingly to me at least, 30% of programmers are full stack. That is huge. Geography, mostly USA, and then Germany, India, UK, Ukraine, Canada. And we drink too much maple syrup up here. We're like ODing on maple syrup. The age, 25 to 34, followed by 35 to 44. There's all kinds of things I want to say about this. I'm holding back. I'll just hold back. I want to dig into some other data that's related to this, but the vast majority, over 50% of programmers, at least who took this survey, are, over 25 at least. You need to move to Canada. You love maple syrup. Yeah, come over here. You just have to rent a moose. JavaScript, HTML, and CSS are the top two most used programming languages. I highly question what people thought they were answering when they said HTML, CSS. I highly question it. Do you even know what that is? Are you sure you know what you're voting for there? Yeah, JS equals 62%, front-end devs equals 5%. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a good, yes, because if you look at, let's say here, let's go back here. Front end, 5%. Okay, front end, 5%. However, let's go back here. JS, 62%. They just don't want to admit they're front end devs. That's right. Yeah. Zig 1% seems a bit high. Honestly, I don't know. This might be kind of like a statistical number that, given a certain number of people who voted with compared to other things, sometimes these things get rounded out. I'm not sure. Probably Node people. Yeah, Dion X is probably Node people. Now, to no surprise, Postgres, MySQL, and SQLite, or Postgres SQL, MySQL, SQLite. I thought SQLite would be a little bit higher, but this kind of makes sense to me. I get this. Cloud platforms. AWS. Why don't you have a look at my counter down below? I would have figured it was higher. That's interesting. We're a growing team Mongo for life, yeah. So there you go. Okay, that's that one. Now, of course, frameworks, paradigms, abstractions, the things that have made the programming industry just in general worse for us as programmers and for consumers, because let's not forget that we are also consumers of our own tools. Node.js, a cool, sweet 40%, followed closely by React. with a precipitous drop, jQuery at 20%. However, the sheer fact that jQuery is at number 3, LFG, bros. LFG. So, I mean, it is what it is. These React numbers do not make sense. Well, according to the survey, yeah, HTMX, where's HTMX? 3.3%. So there you go. Embedded technologies. Raspberry Pi, nice. And then there's Arduino, GNU, GCC, Clang, CMake, etc. Other frameworks and libraries, .NET, NumPy, yada, yada, yada. Nothing truly like big stands out to me, although something about this particular statistic feels off, and I'm not entirely sure why. I can't put my finger on it. Docker is 53%, NPM is 49% of programmers who use it, and pip is 32%. And then it drops down a lot when you get to homebrew and so on. Composer, I'm a little bit like, really? Composer is this low? A Gradle kind of beats it? I don't know. Something's a bit off about this, but maybe this is true. I'm not entirely sure. IDEs. Now, something that jumped out about this particular stat. Sure, Visual Studio Code. I get it. It's used by many. I mean, you could even bucket this under like Cursor, or whatever. But what's this? Notepad++ is in number 4 spot. And then, yeah, Ross. Yes. Vim. Wait, where's NeoVim? Right here. What? What's going on here? This is weird. And Sublime's only 10%. Yeah. This is what the hell is Notepad++ doing this high? I personally know Notepad++ people. Yeah, that's what IT managers use. Jira. So this is just like tools to manage your flows and stuff. Like, I don't even care about this. Who cares? Who the hell cares? Although I will say something that that is good about this. Markdown file is number 3. Next to Jira and Confluence. You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with people using more Markdown files for like, development flows and whatnot, tracking stuff. I'm cool with that. That's good. Markdown files would be, yes, use that more. Take Jira out back. Synchronous tools, Microsoft Teams. This, like what? This was, what the hell? How is Microsoft Teams number 1? I could see it being in top 5. Sure, top 5, yes, I could buy that. But number 1, Slack number 2, Zoom number 3, Discord number 4, Google Meet number 5. Now, the other thing that I thought of, let's see if I can find it here. Is it right here? It doesn't seem to be here. You know what I thought of? How many tools do people use that have messaging tools built in? Where the messaging tool is built into like the thing that you're using, and that's not accounted for here, because this kind of seems to account for like separate messaging. You like Slack compared to Teams? Slack compared to Teams, sure, but Slack in a vacuum, I don't like Slack. So I just don't like Slack. Okay, then they get into like personal, like what do you use? And so, like, what operating system do you use the most? Windows, this doesn't surprise me. Then Mac, then Ubuntu, then Android, then WSL, and so on and so forth. Other Linux-based, yada, yada, yada. This kind of wasn't very surprising. The most used AI system, ChatGPT, then GitHub Copilot, then Google Gemini, and so on. Not really that much surprising. Programming, scripting, and markup languages. So this now becomes admired versus desired. So the red is admired and the blue is desired. So people who want to use it again, because they used it before, that would be Python, right? For example, here, 41%. People who used it and admired it, that would be 67%. And so you can look at some of the things that people really did not admire. PHP is super low. PowerShell is super low. And some of the things that people really admired: Go, Zig, Elixir. However, their desirability rates are really low. So there's kind of like a weird, I want to use it again and I admired using it, but not really, but sometimes, but kind of not, but yes. Look at J, look at Squeal, look at HTML, CSS, look at TypeScript, look at Rust. Right? So if you both worked with the language and want to continue to do so, Rust continues to be the most admired language, and highly desired is the red. What the hell is admiring software or admiring a piece of programming language? How do you admire it? This is a programming language, programming paradigms, right? So PHP and whatnot. I suppose there is a way you could admire it for like, it's very productive. I don't know. Like, I like how it reads. I used it and had a good experience with it. I suppose you could use those as metrics for admiration. And then desire to use it would be, I'd go back and use it again. Okay, so, but this is quite, what does this have to do with the effectiveness of any of these things? Right? Just because. So people are going to take this and go, see? Rust is the most admired language and the most desired. See, Rust is the best. Wait, what? This has nothing to do with the effectiveness of the language or the code being generated. This is like meaningless. It's just personal preference on a chart, right? Yeah. Who is apt to answer the questions? Who are they asking? Is it beginners? What's the context? It makes no sense. It's a mixed bag, right? It's a mixed bag. So you could even be charitable to the survey, but ultimately it's meaningless. Who cares how much you admired it? Who cares how much you admired your Amazon Web Services and want to use it again? Look at React. Svelte. 73% of developers that used it want to keep working with it. That's really high. But look at React. One can admire Rust without ever using it, I guess. Great until used. Yeah. Hey, you can admire it or you can have a desire to use it. But this means nothing. It actually just doesn't mean nothing. It means nothing. It's useless information. But people will take this and they'll latch onto it and they'll go, see? React and Rust. It's like, no. There are objective metrics that you should be looking at. That's the entirety of the programming landscape, is an objectivity based on logical paradigms. I understand where people are coming from when they're like, look, I really liked using this thing. It was fun or whatever. I get it, but there are not enough people who will look at this chart and see it this way. And there are way too many people who will look at this chart and go, ha! I'm right. I should use Visual Studio Code even more. Hey, there's NeoVim. Boom. Desirability rates through the roof on NeoVim, right? Or async tools, markdown file. Hey, I'm glad to see that. I admire JS's quirkiness. Yeah. Synchronous tools. People really liked Signal. Super high, like, admired Signal. And then Slack and Discord and Matrix apparently pretty high up there. Chat Geppetto. That gap, though, that's tight. That's a tight gap. This is super loose, and here it's tight. You know what I'm saying? And then we have this weird thing: worked with versus want to work with. And again, first of all, what the hell? What the hell is this? I can't, like, I would actually have to go pull down the raw data. They give you the raw data here. I don't have time for that. I don't get paid enough by you cheap bums to put the time in to get the raw data, to put up a chart that actually makes sense. How do I determine people who use something and people who, what was it again? Worked with versus want to work with? I don't understand what the hell this is. And even if I could understand it, who the hell cares? Who cares? What does this mean? What is this? This is all, again, developers' subjective experiences, programmers' self-reported subjective experiences, and underneath all this, there is some layer of, we will use this to promote stupid programming paradigms and will say, but everyone likes it though. And this is a close-up of the a-hole that the AI companies' logos keep referencing. Yes. Top paying technologies. What? Is this just because Erlang has nobody working in it and so they're like so desperate they're willing to pay top dollar? Then Elixir, then Clojure, then Nim, then Ruby, and then Perl. Now, at this point of the study, I would not be shocked if people put in numbers to put functional programming at the top. Where's COBOL? Here we go. There's COBOL for you, D-Dabber. There it is. A cool 70 Gs. Old niche languages are always paid. COBOL should be considerably higher than everything else. No, it's 70 Gs. Yeah, but look, it's like halfway down. More than halfway down. No, about halfway down. Look at that. FO bros are getting desperate. Yeah. Yeah, this is, and then look at C. Look at VBA. Look at Visual Basic. Where's Zig? Zig is right there. So close to the top, like top 15. I don't know how they gather this data, but they should start over. Yeah, at this point, I'm very skeptical about how this data was gathered. This is sketch. Yeah. COBOL devs don't go on Stack Overflow. It's true. Changes in salary between 2023 and 2024. Nim got a bump up. Erlang, a little bit of a bump up. Let's go look at, let's see, visualbasic.net. Oof. Perl, oof. Perl's still around? Man. Delphi, Fortran, COBOL down, Solidity down. Let's see, Ruby a little bit down, PowerShell down, HTML, CSS down, C# down, GD script, which I think is Godot. I want to say it's Godot. PHP down, SQL down, JavaScript down. All of these are down. Python's down, C is down, Rust is down, Java's down, TypeScript's down, Dart is down. Keeps going and going and going. Let's see if we can. Prolog is way down. Zig went. That's a pretty deep cut, and Ada went down too. COBOL was made by one of those guys who had really good success with banks because he was the only guy who could read it. Yeah. Everything's down. Zig Bro's homeless in 3 years. Yeah. AI tools. This gives me some hope. AI tools. Have you used, and are you planning to use AI tools in the future? Yes, 61%. However, 25% did say no, and I don't plan to. Good. I want to see this number go up. And then the sentiment is favorable, with 20% indifferent. 23% very favorable. I don't like this. AI tools. Increase productivity, speed up learning, greater efficiency, improved accuracy in coding, more manageable workload, and improved collaboration. How 81% of people are getting increased productivity gains from using AI with programming, I'm not entirely sure. Accuracy of AI tools, 40% somewhat trust it, 26% are indifferent, and 22% somewhat don't trust it. The complexity of tasks. 32% said that AI is not great. It's good, but it's not great at handling complex tasks. 20% said it's neither good nor bad, and 30% said it's bad at handling complex tasks. This is probably more along the lines of real-world numbers. 82% of people use AI to write code or look for answers or then use debugging and getting help. Then documenting code and testing it and all of that. And then how people are planning to use AI in the next year. The more integrated is blue. We're going to integrate it much, much more. And you can see that there is a lot of blue for more integrated much more integrated and more integrated. So if you just take these two, the blue and the red together, the amount of integration these AI systems are going to have on a vast majority of things like, say, documenting code, project planning, testing code, writing code, it's going to go through the roof. And then, they talk about the ethics and all that stuff. Work, employment status, employed or full-time, 70%. Otherwise, it goes down to contractor or student. And then in the United States, they break it down by country here. Number of people who are employed full-time, nothing crazy here. Work environment, hybrid and fully remote, 20% in person. This isn't bad. I might prefer to see the hybrid go down a little bit, but it's not really the end of the world. Number of employees, blah, blah, blah. Salary by type. And to no one's surprise, the people at the senior level who have the most years of experience, who end up being people managers instead of code managers, make the most money. No surprise there. And you can see this plotted out on a chart right up here, the people making the most money, etc., etc. And then the rest of the statistics are kind of boring. There's really nothing. People would prefer to build and buy instead of just build third-party packages and AI systems. No surprise there. People would prefer to have a free trial to tools that they use before they purchase things. People depend on APIs a lot. Lots of people do coding outside of work as a hobby, etc., etc. Then you have community. Who cares? It's like how many times you visit Stack Overflow, blah, 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 blah. So there you go. That's the review of the Stack Overflow survey. And none of this is, I've been over this before. There's nothing crazy in here. So that's it. There were some interesting tidbits, all right? Interesting tidbits in there. And we are where we are. We are where we are. Notice how a lot of people are either complacent or not happy at work. That's a vast majority of people. And for a number of reasons. So, even the programmers themselves know that they're not happy. Okay, so that's it. That's almost 2 hours. I spent another extra almost 40 minutes to go over that Stack Overflow survey. So some interesting pieces there.